Veterans in Transition is sponsored by HireVeteransFirst.com, Jelani Consulting, and Village Connector Community.
Welcome to Veterans in Transition, where we promote the veteran community. Each week we travel around the region highlighting veteran-related news, issues, and events. In this episode, we hear from the first woman to reach the rank of Brigadier General from the Comptroller field. We highlight a local program that introduces students to STEM through aviation. And this week's Vets Talk. Retired Brigadier General Wilma Vaught joined the military in the 1950s when there were strong restrictions on the number of women who could be in the military and the capacity in which they could serve. General Vaught served as the director of the Women in Military Service for American Memorial Foundation, the memorial that honors all women who have served or are serving in the nation's armed forces. Veteran correspondent Catherine Roberts has this story.
Brigadier General, you retired in 1985 as the first woman to reach Brigadier General status as a comptroller in that career field. Can you tell us about the progress from 1985 when you retired to what you see now with women veterans in 2017? Tell us about the progress you've witnessed.
We have come very far. It's hard to believe how far we have come. And when I was promoted to Brigadier General in the Comptroller field, and that was in 1980 that I was promoted, you would have thought we had made a big breakthrough. It was 20 years before the next woman was promoted to Brigadier General in a Comptroller field. And to date, there have been a total of 3 in the Air Force and 1 in the Army. So while we have come a long way, we still have a long way to go, because there isn't anything in the Comptroller field that a woman can't do as well as anybody else. As I look at promotions across the board, we have made progress, significant progress. I used to think that, we might see a woman elected President of the United States before we would ever see a 4-star general. Well, that hasn't happened that way. We've had the 4-star general. But when I look back at history, when I retired in 1985, I was, as a Brigadier General, 1 star, I was the senior ranking woman in the Armed Forces of the United States. 1985 isn't that long ago. But today, we have had 4 women promoted to the 4-star rank. And we have had some large number promoted to the 3-star and the 2-star rank. So we've made considerable progress. But we have a long way to go.
What biggest piece of advice do you have for our veteran women who want to become business owners?
Every time I come to one of these sessions, anywhere, here or any place, where the objective is to take women veterans and help them become entrepreneurs, help them to open businesses for themselves. I think back, I'm just almost compelled to think back to when I became president of the Women in Military Service Memorial Foundation with the objective of building a memorial. And I can tell you, I had never in my life ever intended to build any kind of a memorial or do anything like this. And I had never been in charge of a business. Now, of course, I had been in charge of projects in a sense in the military. As a commander, we had projects done by contractors under us. But that isn't the same as being in charge of that contract yourself and doing it and being responsible for achieving something. When we ended up deciding that what we should have was a building where we could tell the story of women's history When you looked at the history of changes of uniforms, the ethnic differences and all those things, that was not the direction we should go if we wanted to honor all of them. And that it would be something that the women and their friends and relatives would want to come and see, that they would be proud of. And I think we succeeded. So if you finish your military career and you want to become an entrepreneur and open a business of your own, don't be afraid. You can do it. I know, I did it because I hadn't done anything like this. I'd never planned to do anything like this. But I found that many of the things I had learned in my military career, that they applied, and I could rely on that, the history of that in my mind, of getting things done. It's having confidence in yourself and believing that you can do it and taking on something that you're interested in. I think that's very important if you're going to succeed as an entrepreneur.
Born in Cairo, Egypt, grew up in New York City, and a U.S. Navy veteran, Omar Abdel Rahim shares his key insights on serving the government marketplace. Correspondent Wyndham Abdel has his story.
Omar, tell us about your military experience.
I served in the Navy, U.S. Navy, and I served for 6 years, and I served on board 4 different aircraft carriers. My main job was avionics, and so avionics was aircraft radar, specifically towards jet fighters.
In making the transition from the military to business, how was that?
Where I learned business is I got involved, actually I got a job with Kearney, and I was fortunate enough to have some really good mentors there, and they really taught me. I mean, I learned business there because I didn't go to school for it. I read books, but when I got there, I really learned like real business, and that's how I learned.
How does your military background play a role in your business? How is it an asset?
In the military, the one thing that they really teach you really solid is discipline, commitment, honor. These are very critical because the person that's going to do business with you, they want to be able to trust you, know that you're committed, and know that you're disciplined. Like you're gonna do a good job for me. So that's critical. So that's right there. I thank the military for that tremendously. How does it help me? When I go out and I meet with customers, I always say, hey man, I strike up a conversation about the military. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of government officials that did serve in the military. And usually it's a common ground, it's an icebreaker. It depends to lead to other conversations. And then all of a sudden, once they see that you've served the country, it's a little different conversation. So that's how I've been able to utilize it. I think some of the challenges that maybe veterans may face is marketing and sales, because you're really not taught that in the military, and I think that's essential. I think you need to be able to market and sell yourself and your product or your service.
Tell us a little bit about A to Z. What does A to Z offer in the marketplace? So
basically what we do is we go in and we identify organizational challenges and we help them achieve their mission. And it could come in many different ways. It could be technology, it could be consultation, it could be construction, it could be procurement. So there's many different ways. But we basically, we help facilitate the operation of organizations in the federal government.
You spoke about how important it is that veteran-owned businesses mentor other veteran-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. Why is that important?
That is actually very critical in my opinion. That is one thing I think that we really need to build on that and build from it. Because I think once someone sees something done, then they get it. Because you could sit down and explain the theory behind it, but until you actually do it, then you see how it's done. As an example, you're a do-it-yourselfer at home, you read the instructions, says, well, do it, and all of a sudden, you try to do it. But then all of a sudden you see a video, right? on YouTube exactly how to do the same thing, but now the video was so much easier to learn from, right? So we're very visual learners. So from that regard, I think it's really, really critical that we do more mentoring for our future veteran entrepreneurs, take them under our wings, and just show them the ropes on how the business happens.
How important is focus?
You got to have focus. The government is huge. And if you focus in on specific areas of the government that do what you're selling, then your chances of success are a lot greater. And so focus is extremely critical. And even focus to the extent of focusing on the transaction. Once you start a transaction, you develop something that you focus and see it all the way through till you capture the business and deliver. Focus is extremely critical.
And now here's this week's business tip with Stacey Redmond.
The missing link, mentorship. One of the best ways to learn something is to teach it to someone else. So the question is, who are you teaching? Leverage your own experience by mentoring someone who can benefit from it. Think of the men and women who have helped you along your journey, and then look around you and find someone who could use that same level of support. Maybe it's a business colleague or someone who's a little bit behind you. Whoever it is, find them and show them what you know. Help them avoid the same mistakes you've made. It's the best way to learn.
Rear Admiral Arthur Johnson graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1979 and earned his Naval Aviator Wings of Gold in February 1981. As founder and CEO of Destiny Aviation Services, Johnson now seeks to broaden the nation's pool of aviation professionals through various aviation outreach and education initiatives.
We're going to fly at Manassas Airport. For those that were here first year, you remember that's the airport we did our orientation flight in. Once I graduated from the United States Naval Academy, I proceeded down to Pensacola for flight training. And that flight training took a period of 13 months. It was split between Pensacola, Florida and Corpus Christi, Texas. And after I received my Wings of Gold, I was very fortunate. I was selected at that time to go back to Pensacola to be a flight instructor. I finally made it to my fleet aircraft, which was the Navy P-3, and my first fleet assignment, which was a 3-year flying assignment out in Barbers Point, Hawaii. Since that time, I've been all over the world, flying all over all the 7 seas, and I finished up my naval tour right here in the DC area at the Pentagon as a director of assessments for the Navy staff. Destiny Aviation Services is a small company that I started. The goal of Destiny Aviation is to increase the number of people that are able to work in the aviation industry. I currently oversee the STEM aviation program here at Shabbat Christian Academy and also another program up at Reed Temple Christian Academy. I was asked by the pastor here at First Baptist Church of Glen Arden, Reverend John K. Jenkins, if there was anything I could do to help improve the STEM posture here at Shabbat Christian Academy. And after a very quick period of deliberation, I responded that I thought there was something that could be done to help our students become more comfortable with the idea of studying STEM and working in STEM, in the STEM arena, and using aviation as that vehicle to deliver that message and that idea.
When we began the relationship with Destiny Aviation, I saw it as a very natural extension of the experiential program we're trying to run anyway. The brain needs engagement in order to take complex information to mastery. And so what we tell our parents all the time is if a child can't put their hands in the dirt, they will never understand plants. And so if you really want them to understand abstract concepts in science, you have to give them a way to apply it. So what Destiny Aviation gives us is a really dynamic program that allows children across their school day to tie content together. So it allows for integration.
At Reed Temple Christian Academy, we have 322 students from age 2 to grade 8. Our goal is to incorporate C-STEM in their education, even starting at age 2. We believe that in order to prepare our students to be next generation history makers, C-STEM is the vehicle that we must use. For C-STEM, for us, that means communication, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we partnered with Destiny Aviation to provide our children with a rich real-life experience. And so our goal was for us to use aviation as the vehicle to do two things: to learn STEM in a real way, as well as to even gear some of our students to be pilots in the future. It's not our goal that all of our students will become pilots and participate in some form of aviation, but it is our goal to make sure that they all have the tool to choose it if that's what they want to do.
Because we push them to operate at a higher level than your normal 10-year-old or 12-year-old would be expected to operate, they tend to grow and mature very well.
I always liked STEM and, engineering and, seeing how things work. I like that we get to learn stuff that most kids don't have the opportunity to learn, and we get that opportunity so that if we wanted to become an aviator, that we would already have that extra edge that we would need.
Destiny Aviation has influence and impact over approximately 230 students today. And all of those students don't have dreams of being aviators and pilots. And so I'm not too concerned about who wants to fly and who wants to do something else. I'm more concerned about their personal growth and development, their comfort with tough technical subjects, their understanding of, science principles and things around them on a day-to-day basis. And if we're able to impact the young folks in that way to help prepare them for their futures, it's still a win.
In this Vets Talk, Mike Kearney, founder and chief volunteer officer of Project Broken Wings, highlights the importance of looking for the opportunity in our daily challenges.
Pleasure to be here. First of all, I want to thank all veterans for your service to the country. As she mentioned, I too am a former Marine, and I served, hoorah, any Marines? Hoorah. Okay, hoorah. I served from 1981 through 1985 in Beaufort, South Carolina. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to qualify, when I first was asked to speak here, I struggled a little bit about what my subject matter would be, because I am not a transition expert, subject matter expert. Again, I got out in 1985, that's 32 years ago, okay? So I said, well, gee, what am I going to talk about? Because my experience in transitioning from the military to civilian life is totally different and is totally different than what folks are experiencing now. I said, so what am I going to really talk about? So I really struggled with that, okay? And then I got to thinking about it, and I realized that even though I transitioned out 32 years ago, we still share some similar experiences. When I was in, we had certain terms that we would use. Anybody ever hear the term swoop? We would swoop, we would swoop. Swoop meant we would go home. We'd get military leave on the weekends and we'd swoop home. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. So we would swoop from Marine Corps Air Station, Beaufort, South Carolina to Baltimore, Maryland and back. And just like any other soldiers, we would always do what? Wait till the last minute to go back, right? So I remember one time we were heading back down to South Carolina, and I had a buddy of mine who was driving my car. I just bought a new Camaro. We were heading back, and we were sort of running late. And we got down past South Carolina, and we got pulled over by a South Carolina state trooper, okay? State trooper walked up to the car, true story. State trooper walked up to the car, tapped on the window, looked at my buddy. I was sort of half asleep. He looked at my buddy, and then he smacked him. Pow! My buddy said, hey, why'd you do that? And the state trooper said, son, don't you know when you get pulled over by a South Carolina state trooper in the great old state of South Carolina, you're supposed to render your driver's license? And my buddy said, no, I didn't know that. So the state trooper looked at my buddy, and my buddy looked at him, and the state trooper smacked him again. Pow! And my buddy said, whoa, why'd you hit me that time for? And the state trooper says, son, don't you know when you get pulled over in this great old state of South Carolina, you're not only supposed to render your driver's license, but also your registration. And my buddy said, no, I didn't know that. You should have told me the first time. So the state trooper took this registration, looked over at me, then he walked around the car, tapped on the window. I'm looking up at him. He's looking at me. I'm looking up at him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. Look at me. So I roll my window down, and he smacks me. And I say, why'd you hit me? And he says, son, because I know when you would have got about 2 or 3 miles down the road, you would have been saying, man, I wish he had hit me like that. Okay? Now, why did I tell that? Because how many of you know that, and you see people that you hear and they say, you know, if that had been me, what I would have did, okay? So I don't know what it's like to transition from the military today. And I'm not even going to profess to know, okay? But what I do know, what I am here to bring you is my expertise as a subject matter expert in problem solving and troubleshooting, okay? So no matter when you served, no matter when you transition or when you are transitioning or have transitioned from the U.S. services, I know that it hasn't been a smooth road. Okay, I know you face some challenges, and some of you in this room probably face and still face some challenges in your transition. But what I'm here to tell you is this, that if you look at your challenges, understand that behind every problem lies an opportunity waiting to be discovered. Behind every problem lies an opportunity waiting to be discovered. And the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. I don't even like to use the word problem. I use the word challenge. So let's change that again. Behind every challenge lies an opportunity waiting to be discovered. The bigger the challenge, the bigger your opportunity. So if you want to look for some opportunities out here, go find what? Go find some challenges to solve. We don't have to look very far. We have challenges in our life. And if nothing else, a challenge represents what? The opportunity to solve it. A lot of times, problems show up in life as what? They show up as opportunities in disguise. So, what am I here to tell you? Whatever you're faced with, if you are faced with any kind of difficulty in your life, any kind of challenge, don't just look at that challenge as a problem. Look behind it. Look behind it. There will be an opportunity. There will be an opportunity. There may even be opportunities, okay, where you can leverage that opportunity and turn it into something positive. A lot of times we look for things in life and it's, well, what's in it for me? You know, folks go around, well, what's in it for me? So don't just look at the opportunity as if, what can I get out of this? What's in it for me? How can this opportunity benefit me? Sometimes in life, an opportunity may be meant for what? Someone else's blessing. How many of you know that some of the things that frustrate you the most, some of the very things that frustrate you the most, think about it. God may be calling you to solve that problem. Some of the very things that frustrates you the most, God may be calling you to solve the problem, okay? So when we face problems in life, when we face challenges, do a what? Platoon halt. Stop. Analyze the situation. And don't just focus on the problem. See, that's where we get caught up. We get stuck. We get stuck at looking at that problem. How am I going to fix this? How am I going to do this? Okay? Look behind the problem. Look for the opportunity. Look for the opportunities where you can leverage that problem and turn it into something positive. If you think about it, there's things that have happened to you in your life that you look, hindsight 2020, you say, you know, I'm sure glad that happened to me. Because if that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have been in a position to do this. Okay? As I close, I'll share with you another story, true story. This one is true. Okay. So yeah, Mike, you said that the last time, right? This one is true. I remember a young Marine sitting in the barracks 20 or 30 some years ago. That Marine was me. And I remember listening to a song called Brighter Tomorrow by a performer named Tom Brown. I happen to work with Tom Brown 30 years later now with another youth program we work with down in Durham, North Carolina. But at the time I didn't know Tom, but I loved this song called Brighter Tomorrow, okay? And in that song, part of the lyrics goes, lift your spirit and sail into success. Don't settle for anything less, or your soul will never rest. I'll say that again, because somebody heard me. Lift your spirit and sail into success. Don't settle for anything less, or your soul will never rest. Okay? So when you're faced with challenges in life, stop, look for the opportunity, see where it may not only benefit you, but where it may also benefit someone else, and then soar into that success. Thank you very much.
And that's all for this edition of Veterans in Transition. We ask that you like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you have a story idea, reach out to us at vetsintransition.com. And remember, we all have a story to tell. Until next time.